Hello there, and welcome to the tour of the Innovator Class Explorer, the 13th vehicle in my Wimpomania line of vehicles. My name is Wimpoman, and I'm the Chief Designer, Chief Builder, Chief Architect, and of course Chief Dumbass behind, technically, the Sterling Class Update project, sort of, kind of. So, with that said, there isn't actually an original ship to show you because I have no screenshots and no videos of it, and I don't have the game in which it was made. But I am still going to roll the segment title segment for the original ship. So this is only going to be a story, obviously. I've got nothing to show you. So, the original of this was built in a game called StarMade. And it was called the Sterling Class because, as some of you may or may not know, I used to be in a online gaming clan called the 22 SAS, based of course on the British SAS. We emulated it in game, well, sort of. And of course we weren't anywhere near as professional, but you know, or as talented or as good looking. So David Sterling is the founder of the British SAS. During World War II, he had this idea for creating this particular type of special forces. So that's why I named the ship Sterling Class. It was named after him. Now, this is similar, but it's not quite the same. And if you'll forgive the look on the inside before we get to the interior bit, I will talk a little bit about the differences. So it wasn't a Wimpomania line of ship, because at that time when I built it, so we're talking like a decade ago now maybe, there was no such thing as the Wimpomania line. Oh, hang on. For those of you who saw the tour of the Probationer class light flat top lifter, the Sterling class is the one I was talking about, that the original of this, that didn't actually have a name at the time, and then I figured out as I was updating or building this, that actually the original of the Probationer class was the very first, what I would call Wimpomania style of ship, with the wraparound cockpit and these basic nacelle shapes. Now, the nacelles on the original, the Sterling class, were similar to this. Oh, sorry, I forgot to say. So this is the ship that original of the Probationer class carried around the turrets I was talking about. And even this one, I have kept that similar idea. I've put on the pods from the beginner/big inner class pods. Yeah, whatever. I lost track of my train of thought, but whatever. But so the turrets for StarMade were there, and it was the original of the flat top lifter that carried around the spare turrets. So this is that ship, but the cockpit was different. It didn't have a wraparound cockpit. It had. So this is the best I can find. It had a cockpit, the Sterling class, that was similar to this cockpit that was featured in another game called Spore. I didn't base anything else of the ship. Thank you very much to the Spore channel for the video. Unfortunately, I tried to obviously change the quality. I could do 240 or make it worse. So 240 will do. I was looking for a decent picture, and unfortunately every picture I can find other than the thumbnail to that video is not on the cockpit. Oh, it's another video. Quality, we got 480. Okay, there we go. That's a bit better. No, pause. Thank you, Alice and Ghost. The cockpit I had was, yeah, that one there. Which had a... Actually, I adapted it a little bit because the circle at the front was a semicircle. And then, yeah, they it was more rounded than that, but there you go. It was that kind of shape. So a big panel that went up each side, and then met near the middle on the top with a beam, and then there was beams down. Yeah, anyway. So there you go. That's the original cockpit of the Stirling class. That's one of the differences that the new one has, and obviously why the original wasn't a Wimpomania line ship. On top of that, this ship has a, I mean, it's supposed to be stairs. Obviously, you can't walk up the block shapes in this that are stair shaped. So this shape, I would have liked to have been able to use these, but of course we can't walk up them. They don't like it up them. But this staircase on the new version is right at the front, whereas the original, it was actually right at the back, just on this side of the wall of this hangar bay. Aye. But otherwise, oh, and this bottom deck, deck 1, was much smaller, and it was, so basically it was about that size, and it was just a way to get in and out from the ground. I decided to make it bigger and use it as a garage bay. But there you go, those are the basic differences. Obviously there are others as well, like where the turrets are and all of that kind of jazz, and the weapons, but the basic layout, those are the differences. Okay, that'll be the end of the first segment then. So the next segment is going to be its role and its task equipment. Okay, so its role is, as I said, an explorer, so it's an exploration craft, and to facilitate that role, well, it's well equipped. Basically, you could count the thrusters as usual, because without the thrusters it wouldn't be able to move anywhere to explore anything. But basically, it's well equipped. Now, technically, I was thinking about calling it this. It could very well be a general purpose craft, because it has enough cargo capacity to be to move around some cargo. It has some weapons enough to fight with. It has a couple of drills to mine with, so it could be a general purpose. It doesn't have enough of them to be considered a multi-purpose craft or a multi-role craft, really. Of course it has the 2 bays as well, which, as you probably saw in the thumbnails, it can fit some smaller HVs and SVs in. You might struggle to find things that fit, that's what she said, but, you know, there is some bays for docking in. Right, that'll be the end of that segment. The next segment then is going to be its propulsion, handling and lift capacity. Now, if you'll forgive me, I'm not going to bother giving it a test flight, because if I park with the flat here-ish directly in the middle, it was ever so slightly off balance, and it made walking around look weird, because it was obviously at an angle. I moved it around a bit and I found a relatively decent place. Now, small vehicles, the flat here-ish works brilliantly, but for big vehicles like this, there's an extra bit of slopage around that puts it off. So I'm not going to bother flying it around, because putting it back there will be a pain. So, its propulsion, starting with its forward thrust, as I usually do. It has 4 large jet thrusters, 2 in the backs of each nacelles. That's going to get on my nerves if I don't turn that off. Then for reverse, she has 6 medium jet thrusters and 8 large tier 2 thrusters on the front of each nacelle. Why is that still out? That's what she said. Then laterally, we have 6 medium jet thrusters, and we have 6 large tier 2 thrusters. Obviously, that's the same on the other side as well. And obviously, I've put some nearer to the front in order to increase its yaw, although, I mean, ideally the nacelle needed to have been further back. I could have maybe sacrificed those windows, actually, but I wanted windows into the bay just because the original did. And of course in Star Maid we didn't need to worry about putting thrusters in various points in order to increase its agility. So there you go. Right, so that's lateral. So descent down, we have 24 large tier 2s. There are 4 there in the little nacelle strut, and then 4 at the front of the strut as well, and then 4 at the head, obviously matching on the other side. Then we come to the lift. Oh, do you know what? Oh yeah, let's turn them on. Then we come to the lift. So lift, we have 4 jet thrusters that come on by default, and we hang on, did I say large? I don't remember saying the word large. 4 large jet thrusters and 2 medium jet thrusters that come on by default. And as you can probably tell, the max lift is an extra 2 large jet thrusters, 1 on the bottom of each nacelle. Oh, I need to leave those on, don't I? Right then, so it's mobility then, starting with its manoeuvrability. It will accelerate forwards at 80 meters per second squared, decelerate or reverse at 43. It'll do 39 in the laterals, 25 down, 92 up, with max lift off. With max lift on, the lift will increase from 92 to 132. So it's agility then, with max lift off. Yaw is 32, pitch is 29, and roll is 53. And with max lift on, 29 goes up to 53 pitch, and 33, 29 to 33, then the 53 roll goes to 66. There we go. There are also no RCSs on board, and she does come with a warp drive. Right, that'll be the end of that segment. So the next segment is going to be her power, fuel and air. As usual, I'm going to tell you about this stuff now, and then show you where it all is later on. Power, she has 24 large generators. Now she only needs, this was a couple of weeks ago now I did the maths, and I think she needs 12. That may have changed slightly with additions and things, or of course I might be misremembering, but I think she needed 12 and I put 24 on. Fuel, she obviously has a pentaxid tank, and she has a lot of fuel, 92, that's 92 large fuel tanks. O2, she has 120 O2 tanks, 21 air vents, 10 O2 stations, and she is fully compartmentalized. So as we go around, you'll see the force fields and the doors and stuff, and there are vents filling up, you know, a corridor and a room and all of that kind of jazz. So if you take damage in one area, it won't decompress the whole ship. Okay, that'll be the end of that segment. So the next segment is going to be her weapons, defences and construction. Okay, weapons then. Let's start with the turrets because it's easier. She has the maximum allowed of 6 Gatling turrets, and they are set to the general purpose targeting configuration, which is basically all the small grids, or the weapons of the small grids, and also ground troops, predators and drones. Then we come to the fixed weapons, which are all at the front. I'm such a moron. We actually need signals on, don't we? In order to use a signal. Duh. Right, so fixed weapons. So we have 2 fixed Gatling guns under the cockpit. As you can tell, there's also a Gatling turret there too. We have 2 dumbfire rocket launchers also under the cockpit. Then on top we have 2 homing missile launchers. And on the side pods we have 2 pulse lasers, so 4 in total, and a plasma cannon, so 2 in total. Defences. She does have a shield, and she does have a small amount of armour, and we'll have a look at where the armour is as we go over now to the unpainted version to show you the construction. So this is how she is made. As you can see, she has my patented hardened steel structural frame. Well, the structural frame is patented to me, I suppose, whether it's hardened steel or not. This one happens to be hardened steel, blah blah blah. And then as you can tell, the outer hull is mostly steel. There's a small amount of carbon composite where it doesn't really matter. Sort of. So there is a small amount of hardened steel armour up here because underneath this blob is the core. There is also some hardened steel and carbon composite lagshot armour in here, protecting the engineering. Anything else? Oh, the windows are normal glass. They're not hardened, but there is 2 layers of it, which is okay, nice for protection and stuff. Okay, so the bulkheads are carbon composite, and the deck plating is too, except for, of course, where it's outer hull, in which case it's steel because you're walking on the hull. So there we go. Oh, and things like decorative bits and furniture, pipages, is also carbon composite. Right, I think we've had a relatively decent look at that. Let's just give you a look underneath, just so you can see its bottom. Okay, that'll be the end of that segment then. So the next segment is going to be her resource gathering, production and storage. Resource gathering then, she has 2 laser drills there and there. And that's it, because obviously you don't get tall turrets on a SV in vanilla for some reason. Production, she does have some constructors. She has 3. I know that's not many, but I don't really see you would need more than that on an SV, even one as big as this, because of the limited amount of things you can craft in it. Storage. This is going to be quite a big list. So, we'll start with the ore and wood. We have a 3,375 ore and wood container and a 3,625 ore and wood container. Again, I'll show you where this is later on when we get to the interior layout. Ammo, we have a 3,000 SU, a 2,000 SU, and then 2 734 SU ammo containers. The little ones are these ones in the pods. For cargo containers, she does have 4 32,000 SU cargo containers, the maximum size. She also then has 2 8,500 SU water tanks, air quote, which are just, I'll show you where they are, but they're actually just cargo containers. There's one there and one matching on the other side, obviously. Then we have 2 4,000, 4 2,500, 2 1,000, and a single 656 cargo containers. There is a total of 65 cargo boxes on board of various sizes, as well as 12 armour lockers and 7 mini fridges. Right, that'll be the end of that segment. So the next segment is going to be the interior layout and any remaining devices. So as usual, I shall start with the any remaining devices that are on the outside, since that's where we already are. Landing gear, she has some. Headlights, she has some. There's also some... Oh, did I put those as work lights? Mining floods, I called them, that come on with the mining, etc. Okay, thought so. Right, hatches. So we've seen the water, air quotes, hatch there. There is a fuel hatch up here if you want to access the fuel tanks manually from the outside. You can do so. I'm not quite sure why you'd want to and why you'd... and of course it's quite an awkward place, but it is there if you want to RP. Right, my ship does come, as usual, fully flight regulation lighting compliant. So we will start with the running lights. That's the ones you can see slowly coming on and off. They are to let any observer know that the ship is powered. Is there one in the middle there that is off-timed? See, they go off and that one comes on. Then we have the orientation lights. So there are two types. There's the illuminated orientation panels that act as its formation lights so that it can fly in formation with other craft, especially in low visibility. As is usual with orientation lights, we have red on the port, we have white on the stern and green on the starboard. Unlike nav lights though, we also have yellow on the ventral. Not too many, but there are some. Right, so that was those. Then we have the nav lights, which show any observer its orientation, although you could argue the illuminated orientation panels do too. But the nav lights are, again, red on the port, white on the stern, and green on the starboard. And then we have its anti-collision lights. Likewise, they come in two flavours. We have the anti-collision beacons that come on when you use the main propulsion. I should be showing you this later really, but never mind. So the anti-collision beacons that come on with the thrusters show any observer that the thrusters are powered, and so therefore the ship could move at any moment. As you can probably tell, they're flashing red on top and flashing yellow on the bottom. I've explained a few times, but in present day, NASA has yellow nav lights on the bottom and of their spacecraft, and I've sort of figured that those would have, or in my building lore, they have evolved into additional anti-collision beacons on the bottom rather than just on top. So that's those, and then the flight strobes, which are the bright white flashing lights on the wingtips of planes that help any observer visually acquire the ship from long range. As I always say, that doesn't necessarily translate very well into the game because, I mean, especially a ship this size, even an SV, you can see the ship long before you can see the lights, but whatever. It's realism, innit? So there's a couple on each side. I can't remember now if I've done any on the back. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It depends on the ship. Okay, that's all of the flight regulation lighting. So now let's come to the name and registry displays that you can see dotted around. So we have quite a few name displays for you to write whatever you name your ship. As I always say, technically the ISSV Innovator would be mine, but if you want to name yours that, I'm not going to know or particularly care. But of course, you can name your ship something else. So, you can name your ship whatever you want. Likewise, you can do so here as well. In case you care, the ISSV stands for Intra-Star System Vehicle. So it's a vehicle that travels internally to a single star system. Then we have the registry. We have the main registry here and the full registry plus the class on another display. So here you would put, if you can be bothered, of course, the number of which yours is. So you would generally find that out by seeing how many people have subscribed to it on the workshop, adding 1 because I have 1 and I'm not subscribed on the workshop because the creator of a ship doesn't need to be, and then assuming you were the last person to subscribe, that would be your number. Of course, again, no one's going to know or care if you put anything there. You could leave it as the number symbols. You could put your credit card pin, assuming of course you don't stream or YouTube. No one's going to know that. Or even if they saw the number, maybe they won't know that that's what it is. But you know, see what I mean? You could put your date of birth or your house number, whatever. But that's the idea. And then the full registry I will go over. So obviously this bit is the same as the other one. So that's the main registry. The full registry includes it. Wimpo Manufacturing is what that bit stands for. This is an exploration craft. It's the 13th vehicle in the Wimpomania line. And as you can see, it's the Innovator class Explorer. Interesting, isn't it? Wi-Fi, before we go in properly. There is one at the back, which is accessible via that ramp. Oh, which didn't need to be airtight, but never mind, it is. There is also one right at the front, which is there, accessible behind that shutter. I was about to say, I thought I turned the signals off. Of course, I turned them back on again, didn't I? And then there is also a Wi-Fi in each nacelle. There. There you go, just there. One on each side. So front, back and sides for the Wi-Fis. Okay, I think it's time to go inside. I don't think there's anything else to show you on the outside. Okay, let's show you... Right, I'll show you these and then go in from the ground. So we have some drone hatches to fly drones out, and as you can see they are motion sensor controlled. Of course there's nothing stopping you from jetpacking in and out of those. Then we have some airlocks, which are motion so the shutter door that acts as a little walkway, the door itself, and then those two lights are on that motion sensor there, and obviously the other side is the same. And then we have the ground vehicle doors and ramps. As you can probably tell, they are also motion sensor controlled. So this one is on that one there, along with a couple of lights. The ones on the sides are on that motion sensor there, and again a couple of lights as well. And then we have the on-foot access into the ground access chamber in here. Again, motion sensor controlled, that one up there, along with actually a whole bunch of lights under here. So that one is a running light, that's why it just went out. But it's that one, that one, that one, and then this one on the bottom of the mining pod, and then the matching ones on the other side, and one on each side of the doorway. Did I put any underneath? I don't think I did. So there you go. Right, on the inside, obviously we have a bunch of stuff, including O2 stations and armor lockers and cargo boxes and cargo containers, and some make-believe comms panels. But I do want to point out that the seats you will see dotted around the ship that aren't on the cockpit are for what I call in-transit seating. So if you are multi-crewing this ship, as it were, and there's someone in the cockpit seat and you need to fly away quickly because you're under attack and you're waiting for people to come on board, I wanted to give at least 2 seats in every place, so that if you need to move and you need to do it quickly, there's somewhere for people to sit down quickly nearby. Right, this door is on a motion sensor. I will prove it by pointing at the floor. Now obviously the sensor field only comes to this block, but whatever. We enter this little foyer. That one, foyer. Yes, I've even labelled a foyer, goodness sake. So we have, as I said earlier, they're supposed to be stairwells. I don't want to call them rampwells, stairwells. And obviously the other side of the foyer is the garage bay. That door, I did just manually open it, but it is automatic, as you can see. So here is the garage bay for some HVs, small ones again. That's broke. Hello? There you go. Okay, so again, some in-transit seats and a whole bunch of stuff for when you're out and about on, you know, ground surface mission things. Right, let's go up the the ramp stairs to deck 2. Oh, I don't know if I said that's deck 1, by the way, down there. Should we? No, I'm going to go all the way up to deck 3, actually, and then end in the cockpit. So deck 3. Forward we have habitation, rearward we have engineering. Let's go habitation first. That door is automatic. So here is the living quarters with some pretend make-believe bunks and some places to store stuff. It would be, you know, clothing, underwear, knickknacks for the crew, as it were. As you can probably tell, there's a crew of 4 in here, or 8 if you want a hot bunk. Not sure why you'd want to, but there you go. So there's another comms panel, a place to eat, pretend, with a constructor for cooking, a place to sit. Then there is bathrooms, 1 on each side, that are identical except for a mirror image. The light switch in here turns the light on. Aye. The light switches out here, as the little label says, allows the lights to stay on when you get in the seat. Missed. Oh, and you get a nice view of the cockpit from up here as well, which I really like. The Sterling class and Star Maid was similar, but it wasn't quite as... so basically it was just 2 beds, and that was all I had room for. So it wasn't anything like this, and it was windowed, but it was a small window because of the angle of the roof. Yeah, whatever. Okay, engineering. We have access to the warp drive in case you need it. We have access to the generators in case you need it. So there is 6 here. Let's see if I can get inside that block. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then another 6 there, making 12. And then the same on the other side, making 24 in total. That screen is supposed to be blank, by the way. It's supposed to be just a computer access screen, but I didn't bother writing anything on it. That's broke. Now it's not broke. So environmental control there. Another broke comms panel. And another one on the other side, which for some reason isn't broke. Pentaxid tank. Shield. And then another couple of in-transit seats. So if you're role-playing with an engineer, and the engineer is in here and you need to move the ship quickly, they've got a seat to jump in that's nearby. Oh, the core is up there. Anything else to show you in here? Showed you the fuel. No, nothing else. Okay. Back down to deck 2 then. And I'm going to go backwards first and end in the cockpit. So here we have the 2 cargo holds. Each one is the same except mirror image. We have 2 32 KSU containers. Some what I call ammo drums. Another comms panel, make believe pretend. There is also access to O2 tanks in here, just because I couldn't fit it anywhere else. And then... Oh, sorry, the doors into the cargo holds, by the way, are manual only. I haven't put them on a sensor, because I figured you wouldn't be going in and out of those doors as much as others. Then we have the landing bay, and as you can see, I'm not pointing at the door. That's automatic. Again, some in-transit seats and a bunch of equipment. And as you can... Oh, that's broken too, for absolutely no reason. It's just complexity as far as I know. Yeah, whatever. So, yeah, from the screenshots on the workshop, you probably saw that you can fit either a pair of the cadet class snub fighters or a pair of the starter class shuttle pods, or one of each. That's of my builds, of course. Other people's ships may fit in here too. I would say that the shuttle pod is a bit fiddly to get in through the doors, which are of course automatic. Oh, yeah, I showed you that it was automatic earlier, didn't I? Yeah, it's a bit fiddly. it likes to descend on its own when it thinks it's going to land, even though you're still trying to fly it in through the doors. It keeps trying to, it keeps descending as you get to here. Kind of annoying. Anyway, right. Let's go forward then. We have 2 EVA airlocks. In case you don't know, by the way, extra vehicular activity. Oh, look at me, I'm American now. Extra vehicle activity. Vehicular. Actually, I think you can only say that the American way. So, vehicle, British, vehicle, American, but it's vehicular, isn't it? Oh, there you go, British. Right, so these are airlocks for floating around in space in your jetpacks. As you can see, there's some equipment in here, along with some storage. And that brings us on to the cockpit. So we have some more storage, including a fridge. The constructors, each one outputs into the box that it's part of, the container, I should say. So here we have a situation table. Again, the screens are supposed to be blank, except that one. Easter egg. And actually, I can't remember now what I wrote on it. Oh, yeah. So there you go. They would be little displays like tablets that you would use in any briefing and that kind of stuff. And then we come to the seats. The skipper, so the commander, the captain, has an elevated seat because they is important. And of course we have a whole bunch of displays in here. Oh, the switches in here, labelled. They keep the lights on when you get into a seat. And as you can see, I've sort of set up each chair to be something slightly different. Of course, other than that one, they are all just passenger seats. Any of these screens broke? No, it looks like the ones in here survived. That's nice. So this one's supposed to be gunner and comms. And when you turn red alert on, the gunner gets a targeting heads-up display thing. Oh, and the drone hatches are up there in the cockpit. Oh, and the detector's there. Oh, yes. That was close. Actually, there is more to show you. I was going to use the screens to segue onto another segment, but I can't. So, in between decks 2 and 3, the deck plating is actually 3 blocks thick. So we have a block for the ceiling for deck 2, a block for the deck of deck 3, and then in between is a gap filled with stuff. And as you can see, at the front is one of the gravity generators and some container extensions. Oh, I forgot to show you these, so let's do that as well, since it's technically by it. So the ammo containers are on the ceiling, or in the ceiling of this deck 2 passageway. As is the ore and wood container controllers. They're in the ceiling in here as well, which of course means that the extensions for those are in this gap between the decks. As you can see, there's also some extra fuel in here. Oh my god, shut up. It's only my feet dangling through. So, extra fuel. There is also a whole ton of O2 tanks in here too. In fact, it's all of them. Yeah. There is none elsewhere. Oh, I should say I did do some fire drills, some live fire exercises, I suppose you'd call it. I was shooting the fuel tanks from the outside of the ship. Although you do lose that entire bank and most of the O2 tanks down here, it doesn't chain react to the other fuel tanks and the generators. So if you lose one side, you've at least got the other side and some left over. Okay, there we go. That'll be the end of that segment then, I think. So I'm going to use these screens to segue into the next segment, which is going to be its shortcuts and signals. Okay, as usual, please don't auto-group because the device group shortcuts I've set up rely on the custom device groups that I have set up, so please don't click that. As usual, the top one is main propulsion. That turns on what I referred to earlier as the default thrusters, and of course the anti-collision beacons. So default thrusters, and the flashy flashes. Then of course the next one is max lift. That turns on the extra lift thrusters, and as you can tell by the screen here, you can lift quite a lot, but then of course you have quite a lot of thrusters, so of course it will. Next one down is empty. Again, as usual, I keep these in roughly the same order, so sometimes something will be missing, because this would be normally something like emergency power or a head full or something. Next one down is drills, etc. That of course extends the drills, turns on the hazard beacons, flashy flashy, and the mining floodlights there. Next one down is the artificial gravity, which of course turns on and off the gravity generators, so that if you're landed on a planet or a base with gravity, you can save some power. Next one down is production. That will of course turn on and off all of the constructors together. And finally is the air vents. Now, in case you haven't seen a tour of mine, I am going to cover this, but in case you have, I'm going to do it as quickly as I can, just so you don't have to sit through a long-winded explanation, hopefully. If we have a look at the power left and turn oxygen off, it doesn't change, because although the ventilators are no longer blowing air into the interior, they are themselves still powered. So if we have a look at power left and turn air vents off with this switch, you can save some power if you're in a breathable atmosphere. Hooray! Moving on to the signals, as usual, power save is the first one. Now turning power save on will do everything outlined on these screens on the cockpit. So it'll turn off all of the Wi-Fi's, all of the motion sensors except for the bay doors, all of the cockpit displays in here, all of the name and registry displays on the outside, and the little light green light indicator ingress indicator lights that are light green, they're lights that are light green. I always make this joke and it sucks, but I'm still going to do it. So it'll turn those off as well. Alright, so the sensor that controls that, the one on the other side, the one on the back, and of course the one into the landing bay at the top there, will all still remain powered. That's because I didn't want you to have to get out of a vehicle and operate each one of these manually, just because power save was on. Right, next one down is red alert. So it'll turn on the shields, it'll turn on the turrets, and it'll turn on all of the fixed weapons. Now, you may have even seen it, but it'll also turn on some red alert flashing lights around the cockpit. In fact, it'll only turn them on if you're on the cockpit. If you're not on the cockpit, it won't turn them on, but it will turn the ones on that are where you are. So we leave that passageway. That one is no longer coming on, but the ones in here are. Ah, aren't I clever? No. The next one down is just the Gatling guns and turrets, so that if you need to kill a lizard mule for some meat, or a raptor because it's in the way, or a drone because you want to go mine something that it's guarding, I didn't want you to have to waste power turning on the shields and the other weapons just to dispose of something simple, so that's what that does. Next two down are some of the flight regulation lighting. So the nav lights, as I said earlier, are the orientation lights that are red on the port, white on the stern, one there, one up there, and one down there, and then green on the starboard. Not to be confused with the light green lights that are light green that indicate where the ingress points are. Then we have the flight strobes, bright white with the flashy flashy. As you can see, I've done two on the nacelles just for a bit of fun. I would like really all of my flight strobes to flash twice, Unfortunately, it's not a setting that we can have with a light in this game. Did I put one on the back? No, I didn't. I wasn't sure if I had or not. Next one down is headlights. Now, I would normally explain having the switch there so that if you get out of the ship and you've left them on, I wanted to give you a way to turn them off without having to get back into the cockpit seat. Sorry, I bumped my microphone. However, this time I would recommend you didn't use the keyboard shortcut, which I think is L for Lima by default, because that will of course turn on these ones as well. And then finally, close hatches. So the one that leads to what I said was a pretend water tank, and the ones that I said allow you to access the fuel from the outside, and even the ones guarding the generators and the warp drive. If you accidentally leave them open and then realise they're open and you're in a cockpit seat, I wanted to give you a way to close them without getting out of the cockpit seat again. So you flick that switch and it will close them, all of them, and it'll only close them, it won't open them again. Right, that'll be the end of that segment. So the next segment is going to be CPU and upgrading. Now you may have noticed, in the video, because I've opened the control panel a few times, but of course it is also on the workshop page in the description, but whatever. 200 or nearly 205,000 CPU. So it's not compliant with CPU. However, the core is an advanced core. So even if you don't have CPU turned off, you can still use the ship by acquiring a advanced core. Upgrading. There isn't really anything you can do, sort of. So I haven't earmarked any spaces for example, that's the correct way of saying that. I didn't give you a place to put the new shield extender. So this is a civilian craft. I'm reserving the shield extenders for military craft. That doesn't mean that a civilian that finds themselves in a survival situation like we do in the game wouldn't be able to put one on their ship. So if you can find a place, you can of course put something like that on, but I haven't left you a gap. However, there is of course, there is loads of room. So you could probably find somewhere, even if you don't want to remove a block to do it, you know. I might even remove one of these blocks, for example, and pop it underneath the shield generator, for example. Of course, if you don't want to carry smaller vehicles around in this, there is of course nothing stopping you from filling this with large cargo containers, for example, and that kind of stuff. Right, that'll be the end of that segment. So the next and last segment is going to be any other info. Okay, first I have given you a choice of primary colours, so it of course comes in the Wimpomania blue by default, but it also has an Explorer white, as I call it, which is 200, 205 and 210 in case you care. So you select the replace mode, select the colour, and then you point at the default Wimpomania blue anywhere on the ship, click, and it replaces the Wimpomania blue with the Explorer white. I kind of like it. I especially like the blue on it. So that blue is this highlights blue down the bottom, in case you care. On top of that, I do a damage texture. Can I give you a good view? Yes, it's sort of here. So, in case you haven't seen one of mine before, one of my tours, or ships actually. So it's that colour and that texture, which in my opinion, when you lose a block, like so, that to me looks like smouldering metal. And I think it looks more like damage than that does. Because those textures are textures you find elsewhere on the ship. So it's hard to see that that is actually damage. So I do that so that it's obvious that you have damage. And it looks more real, is the idea. The names. So, naming convention of my Wimpomania line of ships. I consider myself to be a noob when it comes to building. That is N-O-O-B. So, I name all of the Wimpomania ships synonyms of noob, N-E-W-B, as in someone who is new at something, or synonyms of words that mean someone who is the first at something, which is why you get terms like the Innovator, or the Freshman, or the Discoverer, or the Frontiersman, and the Starter, and all of that kind of jazz. The last thing I want to cover before I upload this to the workshop is how to deal with my blinking lights if you don't like them. As usual, nav lights and flight strobes are very easy. You just don't turn them on, because that's the only way they come on. The anti-collision beacons that come on with the main propulsion, the red one on top and the yellow red ones on top and the yellow ones on the bottom. If you don't like those, you go to the devices, you scroll all the way down to the bottom where you'll see reg lights and you're looking for anti-collision. If they are already on, deactivate them with the switch there. And then you remove this shortcut. And then they won't come on again, ever again, because nothing will turn them on again. And the running lights. So let's just point those out again. These are the ones on all 8 corners-ish. That, like I said, let any observer know that the ship is powered. Oh, so I've never really done this. So with power save on, and therefore the nameplates and registry displays off, it's not necessarily as obvious that the ship is still running. So that's the main reason for the running lights, by the way. So, if you don't like those, again, scroll to the bottom, and then running lights, and then deactivate. And then that's it. Nothing turns them on, so they'll never come on again. Right, one last thing to do as usual, and that is, go to the right one, and that is to publish to the workshop. Hooray! Right, so there we go. Thank you very much for taking an interest in the Innovator class. I hope you get some use out of it, and hopefully I will see you in another video for a different build. So thank you again, and goodbye.